Welcome to this edition of Decoding Diplomacy with Manish Chand. Today we are privileged to have a very distinguished diplomat with us to unpack the significance of Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's July 1 to July 3rd visit to India. This will be our first visit to India after taking over as Prime Minister, which has its own significance. This is part of the annual summit tradition. But before we start our discussion, let me briefly introduce Ambassador Verma. Ambassador Verma is a veteran diplomat who served in Indian Foreign Service for more than 35 years. He served as India's High Commissioner to Canada, India's Ambassador to Japan, among other important countries. And he was also chairman of RIS, a New Delhi headquartered think tank. Ambassador Verma, let me start with that this is the first visit by Japanese Prime Minister since taking charge of a country. Briefly, how do you see the significance of this visit? We already have a very robust architecture of engagement with Japan. What more can we expect this time around?
Every visit has got its own architecture and structure to go along with it. And this visit will not be any different. So when she is here, of course, the review of the entire relationship would be taken up, gaps found, new instructions issued, and then new political dimensions to be reinforced in the changing global geopolitics at the moment. So I would look at this visit as another significant milestone in trust building between our two countries. So if you look at the way in which the two countries have developed its collaboration and bilateral relations, 2000, you have the annual summit installed, and we call this relationship as global partnership. 2006, trust builds further, and we call it strategic and global partnership. 2014, when Prime Minister Modi visited Japan, the same relationship was upgraded to spatial strategic and global partnership. So if you look at the way in which the bilateral relationship has proceeded in its nomenclature, that itself tells you trust between the two countries has been improving. You asked about what we can expect. So any expectation will come out from two different aspects. One would be the bilateral relation itself, but another will be the existing global geopolitics. And if you combine the two, I would roughly say that we are looking at four kinds of issues to be taken forward. One is strategic stability. These are all very large sectors and segments which I'm talking about. So strategic stability, economic resilience, technological cooperation, and regional coordination.
Ambassador Verma, you spoke about different sectors of cooperation which will be in focus during Japanese Prime Minister visit. Coming to defense partnership, there is a perception and that defense partnership remains limited and largely under-leveraged due to domestic constraints. But there has been some positive news on this front. Japan has removed some export restrictions very recently. Going forward, how do you see defense partnership progressing?
Manish, the defense sector, again, I will divide into two different segments. One would be co-creation, which is co-innovation and co-creation, and another will be production. So when you look at the co-creation part, which is co-innovation, research and development joint, that would go a longer way as compared to the actual product export-import due to the constraints put in the Japanese constitution on the term they use as self-defense. which is, if I can tell your viewers, which is basically Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution. Unless it is completely amended, it will not be a free flow of defense products in the direction from Japan to India, certainly, but probably also constrained to buy from India. With the defense sector, export sector in India is growing fast and is attracting attention of the entire world. So therefore, I think at the moment what we are looking at is a platform which will go for the joint research development of products, technologies, not platforms so much. The other so one constraint is the constitutional, domestic constraint you mentioned. But another very important constraint is that Japanese companies do produce a lot of licensed components for defense platforms. Now, these licensed components are very complex to negotiate with because the end user's license agreement, EULA, is not very easy to be agreed between 3 countries or a group of countries. And therefore, it becomes that much more difficult. So those products which are licensed to be manufactured in Japan by other companies and the countries will find it more difficult for export to India. Those which are entirely indigenously manufactured in Japan, there could be some leeway which we can see after the flexibility of Article 9 has been ensured.
So, I mean, in India, Prime Minister Modi had made Make in India his mission, and defense indigenization, co-production, co-development remains central to that mission. What role do you think Japan can play in that?
See, Japanese technologies, so whenever we look at any defense product, it is a combination of various technologies. And then, of course, it goes into industrial mode and it is produced time again of the same quality in larger quantity. So if you look at that, what happens is that, first of all, you have to have those technologies which could be integrated to have a product. No, Japan becomes a quintessential partner in this. That the technologies which Japan has developed, technologies which Japanese companies own, technologies which Japanese labs, research labs, universities, they have created, they will be the right place to look for the co-creation, co-innovation for new products. Once these technologies have come together, and many of the technologies will come from the Indian startups, Indian innovation ecosystem as well. When these technologies have been put together, only then we can look at the product, which is still some years away, according to my own assessment. And till then, we have to keep building trust, not only between the 2 nations, 2 innovation ecosystems, but also between the 2 leaders.
Mr. Verma, Japan has become India's preeminent economic and development partner. And last year, during Prime Minister Modi's visit. So my question is this, that Japan has become India's preeminent economic and development partner. And Japan's Prime Minister is coming with a large delegation of corporate honchos, big names in Japanese industry, and all that. It's probably one of the biggest business delegations. So obviously, business of diplomacy this time will be business. And my question is that, last year when Prime Minister Modi visited Japan for the annual summit, the ambition was already raised. Japan pledged to invest something around $68 billion worth of, investment in India. How do you see this going forward? What particular you think this time around, with such a large delegation, we can expect more concrete investment in India's growth story, so to speak?
Absolutely, Manish. So let me take you back a little bit. So when you look at the 2025 summit between India and Japan, when Prime Minister Modi traveled to Tokyo, at that time, a very consequential document was agreed between the 2 leaders, and which is known as the joint vision for the next decade. It has 8 verticals I call them 8 folds of Buddhism. So it has got those 8 folds, and Buddhism is the quintessential cultural aspect which brings the two countries together. And if you look at that, I'll just read out those 8 verticals for your viewers to understand what we are talking about. Economic partnership is the first one. Mm-hmm. Economic security is the second one. Mobility of talent, which is also somehow related to economic cooperation. Ecological sustainability. Now, when we say ecological sustainability, actually we are talking about clean energy. So again, economics come into play. Technology and innovation, entire economics. Health. Now here, health is both the practices and the products. Again, economics. People-to-people exchanges, tourism, economics. State to prefecture relationship, subnational relationship, economics. So if you look at those 8 paths, the 8 folds, the 8 verticals, which were agreed to between the 2 leaders, all of them talk economics. So economy is the important pivot between the 2 countries, other than security cooperation, etc. That's very much there. Now, let me try to decode this economic cooperation. So till now, we have seen what you termed as the developmental cooperation. So a lot of Japanese public finance coming into the Indian infrastructure sector, particularly, and some of the social development sectors as well. But going forward, in addition to that, what we are looking at are the new emerging sectors. New emerging sectors, I will count as semiconductor being the first one. And in semiconductor, we have already seen the results coming up. So ROM of Japan has already signed 2 joint ventures agreements. You have Tokyo Electron, which has signed an agreement with the Tata Electronics. So these 2 have done. And what I understand that a number of semiconductor companies, Japanese don't announce unless they reach the concrete decision. Mm-hmm. So many of the Japanese semiconductor companies have been visiting both Guwahati and Dholera in order to look for the ecosystem that they need to set up manufacturing of semiconductors. Second important sector, clean energy. So if you look at the clean energy, it opens up the entire ecosystem of clean energy, whether it's solar, whether it's wind, whether it's hydrogen, whether it's ammonia. Whether it is the storage technologies, whether it is carbon sequestration, carbon capture. So all these things have been put together. And over and above that, a new layer which was defined last year in the visit was the joint trading mechanism. So carbon trading is also very much into the picture. Mm-hmm. Third very important sector in the same area would be telecommunications, mm-hmm. which is important not only from the economic security point of view, but also from the economics point of view. Pharmaceuticals, both products and services, as mentioned earlier. Critical minerals. Critical minerals are not only national security, it's also big economic vertical. Emerging technologies over and above that. So what I see is that slowly we will see the economic cooperation converging with economic security of the nations. When these 2 things happen, then the dependence on each other through the trusted partnership becomes much more evident, much more fruitful, and probably much more successful.
Right. I want to bring to your attention, the latest stories doing the rounds about, Japanese Prime Minister was supposed to visit Northeast, and Guwahati especially. Given Japan's heavy involvement in the development of the Northeast and all that, it would have really sent the right message. But unfortunately, due to scheduling constraints, now it seems to be off the table. She may still go to Guwahati for probably half a day or 1 day. We don't know. But my question is about Japan's role in development of the Northeast. How do you see that going forward?
See, when you look at India-Japan cooperation, in particular, when you look at Japan-ASEAN cooperation, when you look at Japan Quad, in all these, Japan had been advocating, as India has been, for physical connectivity and digital connectivity. Northeastern part of India is a bridge between ASEAN and India. Of course, it's part of India. So therefore, Japan's interest in northeastern part of India is largely on the basis of connectivity. Recently, Bangladesh has also entered into the same kind of arrangement. So now I can say India, ASEAN, Bangladesh, all three, and the connectivity circuit has to be completed with the cooperation of Japan and India. So Japan should be looking for infrastructural developments in Northeast so that connectivity is created, sustained, and used. Once that happens, then Japan will also have a larger focus on reaching ASEAN through a shorter route via India as compared to other contested areas for any strategic discussion. Will lead to that. Secondly, when Second World War was still being fought, the Japanese army reached up to Kohima, where it was defeated and it had to go back. So with Northeast, there is an emotional connect. And that emotional connect also drives some political connect with the northeastern part of India. So that is the second reason. Third reason, which is extremely important, India itself is making huge investments in the northeastern part of India, in infrastructure, in development of people-centric services, in digital services, in agriculture, in organic farming. So India itself is investing a lot there. Japan would be well advised to ride on that so that it is able to reap the benefits of things that India is already doing there.
So are you expecting some new initiative, Japanese initiative in the Northeast, or there is already a lot and it's all about implementation?
I think there is a lot happening in Northeast as far as Japan-India collaboration is concerned.
Right.
So I would prefer that the stock taking is done, and wherever the gaps are found, if there are gaps, then instructions are issued to both sides by the two leaders for them to take things forward. Because, announcements, slogans are important to drive the cooperation. But from my perspective, institutionalization and implementation.
Right.
These are the most important pillars of any cooperation to be taken forward.
Very briefly, let's focus a bit on the geopolitical context of the visit, which is that, as we know, the world order is undergoing a churn. It's a fragmenting world order, and lots of things are happening, and the new alignments and realignments are happening. My specific question is about Quad. And the Japanese foreign minister had come here for Quad foreign ministers meeting only a few weeks ago. But there is a growing perception that America or Trump administration's commitment to Quad is sort of weakening. And it will probably be up to India and Japan to do the heavy lifting. My specific question is that how do you see India-Japan collaboration in Indo-Pacific and Quad going forward?
What I would say is I've seen a lot of media reports, but I still find all the four partners in Quad to be heavily invested in the grouping. And since there are verticals which are being kind of collaborated amongst the four partners, and US is very much there. So I would not at the moment say that there is a fissure or fracture in Quad. It's doing its task. India and Japan are quintessential partners of Quad, as Australia and US are. And therefore, we have our own responsibilities to carry it forward. Quad is very clear on the objectives and the tasks that it has distributed amongst its nations. And those projects are still being carried forward. So I do not see any kind of regression from what was already there.
Another important thing, that China, for example, is very resentful of the growing India-Japan relationship for predictable reasons. And Japan also has been very vocal about critiquing Chinese assertive postures in South China Sea, East China Sea. And there is also speculation about an imminent Chinese attack on Taiwan, which is a sort of red line for Japan. Now, how can India and Japan enhance their coordination to constrain Chinese aggressiveness, if I can put it that way?
See, I would not like to say constrain any country, but rather to advocate the right path.
Right.
And at the moment, if you look at the kind of coercion, the kind of hegemonistic tendencies, these are not good for the regional stability and regional peace. If you look at the violation of freedom of sea lanes, freedom of navigation, if you look at the violation of maritime security, so all these are not good signs
Right.
for global trade. China is world's preeminent trading country.
Right.
So it is not even in the interest of the Chinese exports and imports, Chinese trade. So I think that there is more dialogue required, more diplomacy coming to play, so that any country which is seen as digressing or seen as violating rules-based order should be requested to consider, come back in the fold, and try to be prosperous with all of the countries moving forward.
Just a last couple of questions. India-Japan relations seem to be cruising at the speed of bullet train. I mean, a lot is happening, but bullet train itself, I don't know what is the progress like. When are we going to see the first bullet train in India up and running?
See, it will be very soon, that I can tell you. And when I was in Japan, I was at the helms of many of the things which are now becoming visible. So when you look bullet train, it is not just the import of trains. It is not just the running of trains. It is an integrated technology which has to be put on a platform. And these technology are to be adopted, which means capacity building has to take place. The civil construction, civil work. So I would hate to put a timeline to that, because you or me or any other Indian or Japanese would like to see an accident in India, which will be counterproductive. So therefore, it should be solid. It should be successful. The technology should be transferred as much as possible. Capacity should be built in India so that the management and maintenance of the high-speed railway can be taken care of by the Indians themselves. Now, of course, the Japanese will always remain there to advise us. You asked about the timeline. To me, frankly, I can see it within a year, that you can see the first phase is starting off this high-speed railways, bullet train, as you said. And once that happens, that gives you data to look at any further adjustments which you will need to make from Ahmedabad up to Mumbai, which is the complete corridor. Japanese are also aware that India is opening up multiple high-speed corridors, and therefore they will also be interested in finishing this corridor and moving to the other corridor. One final point in this, which we miss out when discussions take place in India. Japanese manufacturers who are involved in manufacturing components and integrate those components into bullet train, their capacities are also very limited. They are already supplying their products to the Japanese railways, and that becomes their first priority. Any export is second priority, and that I'm telling you because I've served there and I understand their psychology. So with a lot of political pressure put on them through various prime ministers since the signing of this contract, I can see that they are now being edged towards providing more support to this politically significant project, and we will see the rolling stock visible very soon on the Indian tracks.
That's very good news what you're talking about. Ahead of Japan Prime Minister visit, Finance Minister Katayama called the India-Japan relationship, said that it would become the most important relationship in the world. Now, with India-US relations fraying slightly, the description that was used for India-US partnership, the defining partnership of the 21st century, is India-Japan partnership, the defining partnership of the 21st century. How do you look at that?
See, India believes in a multi-aligned foreign policy, and we are not only aligned to one country, we are aligned to many countries at the same time. So all these alignments are defining moments for us. Mm-hmm. So even if we talk of our relationship with Russia, it is a defining moment. Mm-hmm. Our relationship with South Korea, Japan, US, Canada. So if you look at any of these relationships, every relationship has got its own balance. Every relationship has got its own ballast. Mm-hmm. And these balance and ballasts are taken together. And when they move together, you have defining moments. No relationship will be able to take care of the entire requirements of any country. And therefore, you have to depend on many relationships to meet up all your domestic requirements, all your international commitments. So yes, Japan is a relationship which will be defining for India's future.
Thank you, Ambassador Verma, for sharing your assessment and insights on the visit of Japanese Prime Minister to India. And we'll know the outcome soon, but it is set to be another milestone, it seems to me. And Japan-India partnership is set to cross new frontiers in days to come. On that note, we'll end. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Namaskar.